I hate it when a pipe breaks like this. The riser that I'm looking at right now, I didn't know where it went to. I was fortunate that it goes down into an elbow situation like this. And you can see the pile of dirt that I dug out to get into here. I didn't know how far down this was going to be, and I don't remember. I mean, there's so many sprinkler heads here that I don't remember exactly what the configuration is here, but I knew that when it was broken like this, that I was going to be doing some digging. I looked down in there and I could see that the pipe was clean inside because it broke during the cycling of the irrigation system. So it had already blown all the dirt out of there. So what I do in that case is I take an old sock tip and wrap it around the end of a toothbrush and I stick it in there. So when you're looking at the pipe and I'm digging all this around, it's not jam-packed full of dirt. And that's critical for me. That means that I can pretty much just assemble this. Now, I'm going to take it apart right here at this threaded fitting. And there's a lot of dirt around that. And I don't want that in the pipe as much as possible. Dirt is in these lines, there's no question. So what I'm going to do is stick this back in this pipe so that no more dirt gets in there. And I'm going to take this little can of water. You can use any kind of glass or whatever. This is just some little trinket kind of can, and I'm just going to wash the dirt away from there. I've already dug a little reservoir, so all this water is going to run off into this little area that's not around where I'm going to be working. So now I'm going to take my toothbrush and get that extra dirt away from the area that I'm going to be working on. I'm just going to be unscrewing this and rebuilding this broken area, and this is really lucky. I know I did this years ago because this was a hassle. This was stuck way in there, and I'm so grateful that it isn't broken any further. In this case, I'm not worried about any more dirt or whatever getting in. I'm just going to wash all that dirt away, rinse it off from that area with my little can of water, and it all drains off in this little reservoir and it starts to seep in. Fortunately, in where I live, that it's got good drainage, so I'm ready to take this apart. So I took this little elbow and riser thing that I made off, and you can see that there's some dirt still around the threads, and see if I can zoom in here. There's dirt inside of the threads of this little elbow. So I'm going to take my little toothbrush here, rinse it off, and I'm going to clean inside of that to get this all that dirt out of there, because I don't want to have any dirt and sand in my threads when I'm putting this back together. So I am going to take this toothbrush and clean that out real good. Well, it's not perfect, but that's not sand in there. It's just some kind of dirt or something that is really fine, and it doesn't seem to be blocking up the threads at all. So that's the main thing I was going for. I don't like trying to thread things together when there's sand in the threads on either end. I already have my slip to thread fitting installed, but these are the other fittings I'm going to be using to put all this back together. I hand start the elbows and then I get it to vertical with this toothbrush. I just use it as a lever because sometimes this stuff is kind of hard to move with your hand. This Christy sets up really super fast. Red hot blue glue, that's what I use. So anyway, the toothbrush is with me all the time. I use it for different things, moving, adjusting this into position, that kind of thing. So even before I take this apart, I'm gonna wash this whole sprinkler head. I'm going to take this all apart and I'll show you in a second. Anytime something like this breaks, I don't want dirt and sand in this, so I'm going to take this all apart, take this off, and clean it all out before I put it back on my new clean riser assembly. So you can see how that pivoted back into place here right up against the deck. And I am going to flush this out. I'm going to run this zone for just a couple of seconds, and I do that before I backfill because I don't want the water coming out to make the deck all muddy and crappier than it already is. I have my shovel over here in my bucket, so I'm going to use that to backfill and maybe a rake. And I leave the water in here so I can wash my shovel off afterwards. A little bit of water after all this is done being tested, I'm going to take that water and splash it back towards this little edge here. Clean the deck off really good. I wish you guys were here because the citrus blossoms are out in the spring and it just smells so great. I just don't know how to describe it. Citrus blossoms is just the most beautiful fragrance. So anyway, hope you all liked this little set of tips and maybe mods to the way you do things with your sprinklers. This is kind of what it looks like after I do a little flush. You can see that the water is in the little opening that I dug way below the pipes. It's going to keep all the dirt and stuff way below this top of the sprinkler head. And there is a little water on the deck that I can wash off. I want to show you one more thing here too. These sprinkler heads are popped up. And that typically means that the inside of this sprinkler head is filled with sand and dirt and it's stopping these from coming back down. So I'm going to have to take these apart and clean them. So you saw the bucket that I used. Just unscrew them, take them in the bucket and rinse them really good. You could have the toothbrush there to get any stuff that's stuck on, but generally speaking, once you take these apart, the stuff in there is really loose. Just be careful sliding these back on because you don't want that sand to scratch up the inside of that gasket right there or the actual pop-up part of the valve, the head. And then I'll run these for a second or two like I did the one in this video just to flush these out a little bit. There's sand in these lines and it just settles in over the winter and comes up when the system is run again in the spring. Sometimes I'll see this during the course of the season, but this is pretty common for the beginning. These are citrus blossoms. They're just starting to come out. Boy, do they ever smell good. This is a navel orange tree. They're pretty little flowers, but man, I tell you, they are the most beautiful smell. All citrus smells good. Oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruit. They all have a beautiful smell. Most people aren't allergic to them either.